An American billionaire CEO walked into a small bakery to pick up his luxury wedding cake. But instead, he froze in place when he saw his ex-wife holding a little girl, dressed in worn clothes, and quietly paying for a stranger's cake she couldn't afford. What he discovered next didn't just cancel his wedding. It completely changed his life. Ethan Caldwell woke up every morning at exactly 5 a.m. Not because he had to, but because control was the only thing he trusted. His Manhattan penthouse stretched across 2 floors, wrapped in glass that overlooked the Hudson River. The kind of view people spent their entire lives chasing. But Ethan? He never looked at it. His mornings were mechanical. Black coffee. No sugar. No distractions. A 30-minute workout. A quick scan of global markets. Then back-to-back meetings scheduled down to the minute. Every decision he made moved millions of dollars. Every word he spoke shifted entire departments. At 42, Ethan wasn't just wealthy. He was powerful. Feared. Respected. But never truly known. Because somewhere along the way, Ethan Caldwell had stopped being a person and became a machine. 5 years earlier, Ethan had been married. Ava Caldwell. She wasn't like him. Where Ethan saw numbers, Ava saw people. Where he optimized outcomes, she nurtured relationships. She used to laugh more, fill silence with stories, turn ordinary evenings into something warm. But slowly, that light dimmed. Not because she changed, but because Ethan stopped showing up. Missed dinners turned into missed anniversaries. Quick texts replaced real conversations. "I'm busy" became his most repeated phrase. Until one night, Ava didn't argue, didn't cry, didn't beg. She just looked at him and said quietly, "I don't need a perfect life, Ethan. I just needed you in it." That was the moment everything ended. Not with anger, but with absence. Ethan told himself the divorce was necessary. Sacrifices built empires. And he did build one. His company exploded in growth. His name appeared in magazines. He became the kind of man people envied from a distance. But behind closed doors? Silence. Cold, empty silence. No laughter. No warmth. No one waiting for him at the end of the day. Just success. And for a long time. That was enough. Now, 5 years later, Ethan was engaged again. Victoria Langford. Elegant. Sophisticated. Strategic. She understood the world Ethan lived in. Charity galas. Private events. Perfectly curated appearances. Victoria didn't ask for late-night talks. She didn't question his schedule. She didn't expect emotional availability. To her, Ethan wasn't distant. He was ideal. Their relationship worked because it didn't require anything real. And their wedding? It was going to be flawless. Media coverage. Elite guest list. A $25,000 custom-designed cake. Everything was perfect. So why did it feel so empty? Lately, something had been off. Not dramatic. Not obvious. Just quiet discomfort. Like something inside him was trying to wake up after years of being ignored. It started small. A missed call he didn't return. A meeting he cancelled without explanation. Moments where he found himself staring out at the Hudson. Actually noticing it. For the first time in years. He couldn't explain it. But something inside him was changing. On the morning everything shifted. Ethan did something completely out of character. He told his assistant, "Cancel the delivery. I'll pick up the wedding cake myself." There was silence on the other end. "Sir, are you sure?" "I said I'll handle it." Even Ethan didn't fully understand why he said it. It wasn't about control. Not really. It was something else. Something pulling him toward a place he had never been before. The bakery sat on a quiet street in Hoboken. Small. Unassuming. The kind of place people walked past without noticing. But the moment Ethan stepped inside, everything felt different. Warm light filled the space. The scent of vanilla and fresh bread wrapped around him. Soft laughter echoed from somewhere behind the counter. It wasn't polished. It wasn't perfect. But it felt alive. Ethan's phone buzzed. Another business alert. Another decision waiting. He stared at it for a moment. Then, something unexpected happened. He turned it off. And then, he saw her. Ava. Standing near the counter. Her hair loosely tied. Her clothes simple. Her expression softer than he remembered. But that wasn't what stopped him. It was the little girl in her arms. No older than 4. Big eyes. Worn sweater. Clinging tightly to Ava like she was her entire world. Ethan's breath caught. Time slowed. Everything else faded away. Ava looked up. Their eyes met. Shock. Recognition. Something deeper, unspoken. "Ethan," she said quietly. His voice came out lower than expected. "Ava." His gaze shifted to the child. His chest tightened. And he started, unable to finish. Ava hesitated. Just for a second. The little girl buried her face into Ava's shoulder. Ava gently held her closer, then said, "This is Lily." And something inside Ethan shifted. In that moment, Ethan realized something he couldn't ignore. While he had spent 5 years building an empire, Ava had built something else entirely. Something he didn't understand yet. Something he couldn't measure. But something that felt real. And for the first time in years, Ethan Caldwell didn't feel in control. Ethan stood there longer than he should have. Long enough for the silence to become noticeable. Long enough for the past to creep back into the present. Ava shifted slightly, adjusting the little girl in her arms. Lily peeked out just enough to look at Ethan, wide, cautious eyes studying a stranger in an expensive suit who didn't seem to belong in her world. And maybe he didn't. "Hi," Ava said gently, breaking the tension. It was such a simple word. But it carried 5 years of distance. Ethan nodded, clearing his throat. "Hi." Another pause. Awkward. Unfamiliar. Once upon a time, they could talk for hours without effort. Now, even silence felt heavy. He didn't know where to look. At Ava? At the child? At the past he had buried under success? His mind started doing what it always did, analyzing, calculating. The girl's age. Ava's timeline. The gaps. But something stopped him. Not logic. Emotion. Because the way Ava held that child. It wasn't temporary. It wasn't casual. It was love. Before either adult could say anything else, a small voice spoke. "Are you mad?" Ethan blinked. "What?" Lily leaned closer into Ava but kept her eyes on him. "You look mad," she said honestly. For a moment, Ethan didn't know how to respond. No one had ever said that to him so directly. Employees filtered their words. Investors chose them carefully. Even Victoria spoke with precision. But this child? She just said what she saw. Ava smiled softly. "Lily," she whispered, "that's not polite." But Ethan surprised himself. "No, she's right," he said quietly. Then, after a pause, "I guess I do look mad sometimes." Lily studied him again. Then shook her head. "You look sad." That hit harder than any business loss Ethan had ever experienced. Sad? He didn't have time to be sad. He didn't allow it. And yet, hearing it out loud made something inside him tighten. Because maybe, just maybe, she was right. "Ah. You must be Ethan." The warm voice came from behind the counter. Rosa, the bakery owner. Her presence filled the room, not loud, not overwhelming, but steady and kind. She wiped her hands on her apron and walked over with a smile that felt genuine in a way Ethan wasn't used to. "Ava told me you might be coming for the wedding cake." Ethan glanced at Ava, surprised. "You told her?" Ava nodded. "It's a small town. People talk." There was no judgment in her voice. Just truth. Rosa gestured toward the display. "Your cake is almost ready. But you're early, so you'll have to wait a few minutes." Ethan checked his watch instinctively. Time. Schedules. Efficiency. Everything in him wanted to say he'd come back later. But instead, he stayed. "I can wait." Ava raised an eyebrow, subtle, but noticeable. That wasn't the Ethan she remembered. As Ethan stood there, something unusual happened. He started noticing things. A young mother in the corner counting coins carefully before ordering. An elderly man sitting alone with a single cup of coffee. A group of kids laughing over shared pastries. This place wasn't just a bakery. It was a lifeline. And Ava? She was part of it. The bell above the door rang. A man walked in, mid-30s, worn jacket, tired eyes. He approached the counter hesitantly. How much for the smallest cake?" he asked. Rosa answered gently, but Ethan could see the shift. The man's shoulders dropped. He didn't have enough. I'll just take a cupcake," he muttered. But even that seemed like a stretch. He started to turn away. Then Ava stepped forward. "I've got it," she said softly. The man looked confused. "No, I can't." "It's for your kid, right?" Ava asked. He nodded, embarrassed. "Then let them have a cake," she said with a small smile. "No big speech. No attention. Just quiet kindness." Ethan watched the exchange like it was something foreign. In his world, money solved problems. But it always came with expectations. Returns. Leverage. Visibility. This was different. There was no benefit for Ava. No gain. Just giving. And something inside him cracked. After the man left, holding the cake like it was something priceless, Ethan turned to Ava. "You do that a lot?" he asked. Ava shrugged lightly. "When I can." "That's not sustainable," Ethan said automatically. Wrong answer. He knew it the moment he said it. Ava met his eyes. "It's not about sustainability, Ethan," she said gently. "It's about showing up when it matters." Ethan hesitated. "That's not how the world works." Ava smiled, sad, but kind. "Maybe that's the problem." Silence. But this time, it wasn't awkward. It was meaningful. That night, Ethan couldn't stop thinking about what he saw. The man. The cake. Ava. Lily's words. "You look sad." For the first time in years, he didn't open his laptop when he got home. He didn't check emails. He didn't review numbers. He just sat there, thinking. The next morning, Ethan made a call. Not to his board. Not to his assistant. But to his financial advisor. "I want to fund a small business," he said. "Which one?" Ethan paused. Then said, "A bakery." By the end of the week, Rosa's bakery received an anonymous financial boost. Enough to cover expenses. Enough to ease the constant pressure. Enough to allow her to say yes more often. No name attached. No press release. No credit. Ava wasn't naive. She saw the changes immediately. Rosa stopped worrying about inventory. More families were being helped. And somehow, it all started right after Ethan showed up. A few days later, Ethan returned to the bakery. Not for cake. Not for a reason he could explain. Just because. Ava was waiting. "You did this, didn't you?" she asked. Ethan didn't pretend. "Yes." "Why?" Simple question. Complicated answer. Ethan looked around the bakery. At the people. At Lily, coloring quietly at a table. Then back at Ava. I don't know, he admitted. Then, after a pause. I think I forgot what matters. Ava studied him carefully. Not judging. Not rushing. Just seeing him. For the first time in years. And maybe for the first time ever. Ethan wasn't trying to impress her. He was just being honest. Before we continue with this incredible journey, I spent countless hours researching and crafting this story to bring you something truly meaningful. If stories like this touch your heart and you want to see more acts of kindness that restore faith in humanity, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. It truly means the world and helps these stories reach people who need them most. Now, let's see what happens next. Have you ever witnessed an act of kindness that completely changed your perspective? At first, Ethan told himself it was temporary. A phase. A distraction. Something he would eventually outgrow. But days turned into weeks. And somehow, the man who once measured time in billions of dollars started measuring it in moments. Ethan kept coming back to the bakery. Not every day, but often enough that it stopped being surprising. At first, he stood in the background, observing, learning, trying to understand a world that didn't operate on profit margins. Then slowly, he stepped in. It started with something small. Lily sat at her usual corner table, struggling to finish a puzzle. Ethan noticed. He hesitated. Then walked over. Need help? He asked. She looked up at him suspiciously. You're the sad man, she said. Ethan almost laughed. Yeah. I guess I am. She studied him for a moment. Then slid the puzzle toward him. Okay. But don't mess it up. That was the beginning. Piece by piece. Conversation by conversation. Lily began to trust him. She told him about her favorite color, yellow. Her favorite story, the one Ava reads every night. Her fear of thunderstorms. And Ethan? He listened. Really listened. Something he hadn't done in years. For the first time in his life, Ethan wasn't trying to fix something, or optimize it, or control it. He was just present. And strangely, that felt harder than running a billion-dollar company. Ava watched all of this quietly. Carefully. She didn't rush to conclusions. Didn't assume this version of Ethan would last. Because she had seen him before. Brilliant. Driven. But distant. Still. Something felt different this time. One evening, after closing, Ava approached him. You don't have to keep coming here, you know, she said. Ethan leaned against the counter. I know. Then why do you? He thought about it. Really thought. Then answered honestly. Because this is the only place where I don't feel empty. Ava didn't respond immediately. Because she understood exactly what he meant. But she also knew something he didn't. Healing wasn't about visiting a place. It was about becoming someone new. As Ethan became more present, people started noticing. And not everyone was comfortable with it. Some welcomed him. Rosa appreciated the support, but more than that, she appreciated his humility. "You're learning," she told him one day. "That's rare." The families at the center began to trust him. Not as a billionaire, but as someone who showed up. But others? They weren't so sure. "People like him don't change," one man muttered. "This is probably some kind of PR stunt," another whispered. Even some of Ava's closest friends were cautious. "He hurt you once," they reminded her. "Don't forget that." And that was the hardest part. Because Ava wanted to believe in growth. In second chances. In redemption. But she also carried memories. Of being alone in a marriage. Of feeling invisible. And she couldn't ignore that. Just when things started to feel stable, everything shifted again. One afternoon, as Ethan sat with Lily coloring, the bakery door opened. And in walked Victoria. Elegant as always. Perfectly dressed. Completely out of place. The room went quiet. Victoria's eye scanned the space. Then landed on Ethan. And finally, on Ava. And Lily. Her expression tightened. "So this is where you've been," she said coolly. Ethan stood up slowly. "Victoria." "I've been calling you for days," she interrupted. "You cancel meetings, disappear from events, and now I find you here." Her voice wasn't loud. But it carried weight. Expectation. Control. Ava stepped back slightly. Instinctively protective. Lily moved closer to her, sensing the shift. Ava didn't speak. But her eyes said everything. "This is your world, Ethan. Not mine." Victoria looked around with subtle disapproval. "This isn't you," she said. Ethan didn't answer immediately. Because for the first time, he wasn't sure that was true. Victoria crossed her arms. "You're supposed to be preparing for our wedding," she said. "And instead, you're playing, what? Community volunteer." That word hit differently. Playing. As if none of this mattered. As if none of this was real. Ethan looked at Ava. At Lily. At the people in the bakery. Then back at Victoria. And something became clear. Painfully clear. "This isn't playing," Ethan said quietly. Victoria scoffed. "Then what is it?" Ethan paused. Then said, "This is the first real thing I've done in years." After Victoria left, the energy shifted. Again. Ava became quieter. More guarded. She had seen this before. Moments where Ethan seemed present. Only to disappear when life pulled him back. "You don't have to do this," Ava told him later. "Do what?" "Stay." Ethan frowned. "I want to." Ava shook her head gently. "No, you want this version of yourself. Then she looked at him, honest, but firm. But what happens when it gets hard? That question lingered. Because this time, it was getting hard. His company was demanding more of him. His reputation was starting to shift. His engagement was falling apart. And now, even Ava wasn't sure if he would stay. Ethan stood at a crossroads. For the first time in his life, success wasn't the obvious choice. Control wasn't the safe option. And walking away wasn't as easy as it used to be. Because now, there was something worth staying for. Have you ever had to overcome obstacles to help someone you truly cared about? What challenges did you face, and did you keep going when things got difficult? Share your experience below. Your story might inspire someone else. After that day, nothing felt simple anymore. Not for Ethan. Not for Ava. Not even for the small world inside that bakery that had once felt so safe. Because growth, real growth, doesn't happen without resistance. Back in Manhattan, reality hit hard. Ethan walked into a board meeting that felt colder than usual. Eyes followed him. Whispers stopped when he entered. His COO leaned in. "You've been distracted." Translation? "You're slipping." Deals were delayed. Investors started asking questions. Articles began to shift tone. Is Ethan Caldwell losing his edge? The empire he built, the one he sacrificed everything for, was starting to wobble. And for the first time, Ethan didn't rush to fix it. That night, Victoria was waiting. Not calm. Not composed. Furious. "You're throwing everything away," she said sharply. Ethan stood still. "No," he replied quietly. "I'm finally seeing what I gave up." Victoria laughed, cold, disbelieving. For this, she gestured vaguely. "A small-town bakery? A woman who already left you." That was the moment. The final line. Ethan met her eyes. "No," he said. "For a life that actually means something." Silence. Then Victoria shook her head. "If you walk away now, there's no coming back." Ethan didn't hesitate. "I know." And just like that, the wedding was over. The life he had planned, gone. But instead of panic, Ethan felt something unexpected. Relief. But just as Ethan moved closer to something real, Ava pulled further away. One evening, after closing, Ava finally spoke. Not softly this time. Not cautiously. But honestly. "You don't get to fix this by being here for a few weeks, Ethan." He didn't interrupt. Didn't defend himself. He just listened. "I was pregnant," Ava said. The words hit like silence after a storm. Ethan froze. "What?" Ava's voice trembled, but she didn't look away. "During our last year, I was pregnant." The world seemed to stop. Ethan's mind raced. Dates. Memories. Moments he missed. And then, The realization. "Why didn't you tell me?" he asked, his voice barely steady. Ava let out a quiet breath. "I tried." "You were always busy," she said. "There was always something more important." Each word landed heavier than the last. "I went to appointments alone. I heard the heartbeat alone. And when I lost the baby..." Her voice broke. "I was alone then too." Ethan didn't speak. Because there was nothing he could say. No explanation. No justification. Just truth. He hadn't just lost Ava. He had lost a child he never even knew. Ava wiped her tears gently. "Taking Lily in wasn't just kindness," she said. "It was survival." She looked at him, not with anger, but with clarity. "She gave me a reason to keep going." That night changed everything for Ethan. Not because he had a solution, but because for the first time, he stopped trying to fix the past and started changing the present. He didn't make grand gestures. Didn't try to win Ava back. Didn't promise anything. He just showed up. He helped at the community center. Fixed broken shelves. Carried boxes. Sat with kids who needed attention. Read stories to Lily, even when she corrected him mid-sentence. "You skipped a page," she'd say. And he'd smile. "Guess I need practice." Lily started waiting for him. Ava started noticing. Not the effort, but the consistency. Because this time, he didn't disappear. Something else started happening too. Something bigger than Ethan. With Ethan's quiet support and Ava's leadership, the community center grew. Job training programs expanded. Local businesses received support. Families who once struggled started stabilizing. Others began contributing. A local teacher volunteered extra hours. A retired mechanic started free workshops. A nurse offered weekend clinics. Kindness spread. Not because of one man's money, but because of one man's change. Ethan stood one day, watching everything unfold. And it hit him. This was impact. Not numbers on a screen. Not headlines. But real lives changing. Months later, everything looked different. The same bakery. The same warm light. But a completely different Ethan. He stood near the counter, not as a visitor, but as someone who belonged. "Ethan!" Lily ran toward him, arms wide. He knelt down, catching her effortlessly. "Hey, kiddo." "You're late," she said seriously. He smiled. "I know. Traffic." She crossed her arms. "That's not a good excuse." From behind the counter, Ava watched. Quietly. Noticing everything. The way Ethan showed up. The way Lily trusted him. The way he no longer felt like a stranger. Ethan looked at Ava. No pressure. No expectation. Just honesty. "I'm not here to fix the past," he said. I just want to be part of what you've built. Ava didn't respond right away. But this time, she didn't step back. She didn't close off. She simply nodded. A small gesture, but a powerful one. Because it meant, maybe this time is different. That same afternoon, a familiar situation unfolded. A woman entered the bakery, nervous, counting coins, trying to buy something small. Before Ava could move, Lily stepped forward. "I can help," she said proudly. She looked at Ethan, then at Ava, then back at the woman. Ethan smiled softly, because now he understood. This wasn't about him anymore. This was about what kindness creates. This story shows how one act of kindness can truly change everything. What's one simple way you could make a difference in someone's life today? Challenge yourself and share your answer in the comments below. A year passed. Not in headlines. Not in boardrooms. But in quiet, meaningful moments that slowly reshaped everything. Ethan Caldwell was still a billionaire. Still respected. Still influential. But he was no longer defined by those things. His company? It survived the turbulence. In fact, it evolved. Because Ethan changed the way he led. He started investing not just in profits, but in people. Employee programs expanded. Mental health support increased. Community partnerships became part of the company's mission. For the first time, his success felt shared. But the real transformation didn't happen in Manhattan. It happened in Hoboken. Lily was no longer the shy little girl hiding behind Ava's shoulder. She was confident, curious, full of life. She still loved puzzles. Still corrected Ethan when he skipped pages. But now? She laughed louder, dreamed bigger, and believed, completely, that she was safe. One afternoon at school, her teacher asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" Lily thought for a moment. Then said, "I want to help people, like Ava does." She paused. Then added proudly, "And like Ethan learned to do." Ava didn't become rich. She didn't chase recognition. She didn't need to. Because what she built was something far more powerful. The community center expanded into a full support network. Families found stability. Children found safety. People who once felt invisible were finally seen. And Ava? She remained exactly who she had always been. Kind. Strong. Unshakably compassionate. Their relationship didn't magically reset. It wasn't a perfect reunion. It wasn't a dramatic love story. It was something better. Real. Built slowly. Through trust. Through consistency. Through showing up, again and again. They talked more. Laughed more. And sometimes they sat in silence. But this time, it wasn't empty. What started as one small act of kindness became something much bigger. Local businesses began supporting each other. Neighbors checked in more often. Strangers became helpers. And slowly, the entire community shifted. Not because of money. Not because of power. But because one person chose to care. And another chose to change. Kindness doesn't always look dramatic. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's paying for a stranger's cake. Sometimes it's staying when it's easier to leave. And sometimes it's choosing to become better, even when no one expects you to. Ethan once believed success was about control, about building something no one could take away. But he was wrong. Because the most valuable things in life aren't built alone. They're shared. They're felt. They're lived. Stories like this remind us that extraordinary kindness exists all around us. If this story touched your heart, please like this video. It helps more people discover these powerful, inspiring moments. Subscribe for more stories of human kindness that restore faith in humanity. And most importantly, look for opportunities in your own life to be someone's unexpected blessing. Because you never know. Your small act of kindness might completely change someone's world. What act of kindness will you perform this week? Big or small, share your commitment in the comments below. Let's inspire each other. Thank you for watching. And remember, you have the power to change someone's entire life.